Yeah, I thought I'd better say this. Hello and welcome to In the Course of the Wenton King, because I haven't even said that recently. In our chilled way. We're doing another book. It's Zappa the Hard Way by Andrew Greenaway. Not Greenway, Greenaway. Grenaway? Greenaway. Greenaway. Forward by Candy Zappa. I don't know who that is. And afterward by Pauline Butcher, who apparently is the author of Freak Out, My Life with Frank Zappa.
Oh, right. I thought that was Pat's sister.
Yeah. Scott Toonies, that's how you pronounce his name. You want to read This Is Rad. He would say that because he's got skateboards and stuff. I absolutely devoured the book. Andrew captured what happened there. A great read. Mike Keneally. And don't read this book, Ed Mann. So what's that about? It's nice and short, which is good. And it's about one tour. There can't be many tours you could write a whole book about. Well, you could, but you'd get sued. This is the infamous 88 tour, possibly his best tour. Lots of reasons why it could be his best tour. Not the easiest. A lot of his tours have difficult moments, obviously, but maybe not the most consistent, maybe. It's a story of musicians being seriously challenged. They're not newbies, but people who are now industry heavyweights, having been, with Frank a long time ago by this point. They're also well versed in Frank's music, and it's an incredibly demanding situation for people who are sort of past that. They're not young when they're going to push themselves anymore, and they probably come in with a bit of cynicism, a bit of, well, I can do this, and no, you can't. It's hard. It's always hard. It's very hard. It's there on the difficulty, so it's just not going to happen. It's never going to be easy. It's also a story of what happens when you put a bunch of human beings together and a narrative arises from a sort of mutual agreement which has some truth in it but has been completely blown out of proportion, probably. It's an internet message board. There's a nice mix. It's anecdotal stuff, so there's loads and loads of quotes of people. He's interviewed loads of people, and we've got the interviews from the people and nerdy set lists, so we get the detail on what was played, what was rehearsed, etc, etc. I think it is what you want from this kind of book. Necessarily the question, what happened there, isn't actually answered. There is no paragraph which tells you what happened, but that's necessarily because only the people who were there can tell you. So we go on. He's interviewed the people who were there, and they've told you about it. That's the best you can do. That's the 100% truth, or closest you will get to the truth, by asking the people who were there. I mean, anecdotal evidence is the worst kind of evidence, but in that situation, that's all you got, and some fantastic music. Yes.
Sam shifts nervously in his seat.
I've read this book.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. I mean, Zappa's such an interesting character. I mean, there's a Duke Ellington book up there where they go through all the reviews and stuff at the time, and they do fill you in on the background information, which doesn't really, I don't know, it doesn't really sort of give you what you want, because when you read a book like about Zappa and Duke Ellington and people like that, you want to get a sort of grasp.
Yes, the meat of what really happened.
Yeah, what's going on. But it is fascinating to listen to other musicians who were there at the time talk about it. And they are sort of all very, I don't know what the word is. They're sort of, I'm glad I did it, but shit, it was intense. It was hard. Yeah.
Musicians are strange people. They're going to be strange people.
I mean, you get some great musicians, and they sort of, you think, oh man, these were awesome. They were integral to Zappa's sort of band at the time. And then to hear them when they talk about other musicians in the band, how they sort of looked at them and thought, flipping it, they were good to hear. People who are up here saying, wow,
so
he's good.
Whoa, he's like the top, top of the mountain.
I like Zappa. I find him a very interesting character. I do actually appreciate his music a lot more than I used to since starting this channel. To the point where I say I'd actually like it. I mean, there's always a Zappa album on my phone when we go on holiday.
You pick a different one.
Yeah, pick a different one and listen to it. The mythology around it.
Yeah.
There should be a chapter in this book about it.
Which was the idea in the first place in 1966. Yeah, I mean, that's amazing.
I don't know if it actually... I thought that was sort of going to be my gateway into Zappa. I thought. I thought I'm actually going to enjoy the mythology more than the music.
It's as impenetrable as the music.
In reality, it's turned out the complete backwards. I'm sort of fairly standard appreciator of Frank Zappa now. I like the music.
Right.
I'm not that interested in the mythology anymore.
Oh, okay.
Although I do like hearing the musicians who played with him talk about it.
Yes.
I have sort of got lost in the odd YouTube thing for that. Mm-hmm. So, with regards to this book, good length. It's not like that thick.
Yes.
It's not like the Golden Bow.
For that you want the definitive biography. Electric Don Quixote is the one. This is it's another one. It's a thing you could write so many different books about Zappa from different perspectives. I'm not. This happened on this show, and then we did this on this show. I don't like that. Quite boring.
You'd
have to be. You've got to be really, really into it and know all the stuff that's actually been released first. Yeah. Before any of that means anything.
I'll be much more interested in a sort of an analysis of Zappa music, and presenting it in a sort of someone try and put a framework on it that you can sort of try and judge it by. I'm not sure you can do that, but I would like someone really smart to do that, and I would definitely read that. That would be my Zappa book, I think.
That does something that doesn't do a chronological biography. I wonder if that exists.
Maybe people can let us know.
It'd be monumentally difficult.
But I mean, it's a good one. There are lots of Zappa books, aren't there?
Yeah. And like I said, not just biographies.
Yeah, and this is a good one to get. I mean, I found it quite. I read quite a few chapters quite quickly, so that's normally a good sign, especially for a music book. I find, unless it's Bill Bruford or something like that. But does it say anything interesting about music?
Probably lots. Yeah. Because I mean that's just the nature of Zappa. You got the mythology of it about he did this and this happened. In some hotel room, something happened. Oh my God, somebody got married for no reason, and but you can't do that without talking about the music as well. So Zappa writes this thing which fits what happened there, and he sings about it, and there's a lot about how difficult it is to play. But I mean, the repertoire. This is his biggest repertoire of any tour, and. So that covers a lot of stuff, not just the very difficult stuff. A musician in that band had to have the sort of comedy stuff down, so I had to play with a sort of different type of attitude to when they're playing crazy proggy stuff. And, they've got to play all this stuff, and that's the real challenge, because you could get some conservatory trained yo-cat, someone who can play everything. And they would play the notes correctly, but they wouldn't be able to cope with the Zappa band, because it would change halfway through the show. He'd say, "Oh, we're going to do this in a different key now," or "Stop, you'd stop, right? You do this," and they wouldn't be able to cope with that. So it does take a very special kind of musician, the top ones, those ones, and that is interesting. That's why it's interesting to hear what they say. It's interesting what you said. You mentioned the Duke Ellington book up there, which is about. It's basically just a collection of reviews, isn't it? Of articles about him.
It does also give you the background to it. So, for example, Black, Brown, Beige. It's sort of it will give you the story of how that came about and what was going on, and then it will give you the reviews from the time.
Right. Yeah. I mean. Zappa was so scathing about reviews from the time, and he I think in jazz it'd be much less of a problem. The reviews of the time will be about the music, but the reviews of the time of rock music is such rubbish. it's entertaining to see what crap they wrote, and he was very clear that you want to know what happened at the time, listen to the music actually, because in the music he tells you what happened, and this kind of thing, retrospectively. Reviews of Zappa at the time were probably just baffled. People who were baffled and angry at not understanding. How dare he? I liked Freak Out. What's this? He's got some different band. How dare you? But I can't think of another book like this. I can't think of a single one that is about a tour. I don't know if someone can recommend a book about a tour. I'm surprised there isn't like a Led Zeppelin US 1970 book. But like I said, I don't think you could do that until they're all dead, to be honest. I think it would be very naughty.
For litigative purposes.
Yeah. And I mean, with Led Zeppelin, a lot of that probably isn't true, actually, is the problem. It's not really clear how much was made up, and they won't remember. That was that thing we did, didn't we? Did we? I don't know. So that's the thing. I mean, when I was complaining about that bizarre Queen movie, a Led Zeppelin movie would be the same. It wouldn't be anything to do with real life. It would be this weird fantasy Hammer of the Gods stuff, you know. But again, they couldn't do that till they're dead. The synclavier. It does talk about the synclavier. Obviously, it's very significant because it was used on tour. It's really weird. You see the videos of it, and you've got a CRT monitor in the middle of the stage, and Zappa's sitting at the computer. It's really bizarre. But I mean, really, it was doing sampling really, and repeating samples and sending them around the PA and things like that. I think that's what it was really doing. But it meant a lot of improvisation was then sample improvised. So it's kind of early hip hop or something. I don't know. Playing records. Do they do that? Do they sample themselves and then go va 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 va?
Beardy Man does.
Does he?
Yeah.
Who's Beardy Man?
You've never seen Beardy Man? YouTube him. He's pretty cool.
All right. Okay. Does he like hello yes?
Yeah.
Hello yes. Hello yes. We haven't heard a lot from this lineup since he died. He did make 6 CDs worth and bits on You Can't Do That Stage Anymore. I don't think. I could be wrong about that. I mean, one of those CDs was released posthumously, which was the guitar solos. But apart from that, I think they're banished. I think the baddies are banished, and we won't talk about that. But there was the family side, and there was I think Ed Mann and people like that side doing their tribute act, and there was litigation and all that stuff going between them. And I think that's why there's not much been released. I mean, I'm sure that's what fans would want. In what's it called, the live venue releases where it is just a show on CD. Surely an 88 show is what people would want. They want an 82 show, an 88 show. We've got everything else. I think we've got the Jean-Luc Ponty band and the Petite Wazoo and the Big Wazoo. So I think we've got everything but we've got one CD of 82, and we've got all the stuff he released from 88 and a mountain of stuff from 84. So I think that's what people want. Yeah. Okay. The Schism, which is kind of the reason for making the book. It's not just, it isn't just focused on that. It isn't just a book about that. But I think it justifies making the book, really. The book is about the tour, the whole tour, which obviously wasn't just about an argument. But yeah, as we know, I've spoken about in the other video, Scott Tunis, who at the time I called Scott Thunes, because that's what it says on the paper. It's Thunes. And yet I saw Mike Keneally, and I said Mike Kennelly. So who knows? So yeah, I've talked about this already. I've softened my opinion a bit. I was very much, they were paid to do a job. Just do it. You're being paid to do it. You do your job. Maybe I've changed in the meantime. I'm not sure. They're human beings, and you can't expect people to be robots. Zappa did have a responsibility as an employer to look after the sort of mental well-being of his employees, really, and he might have found it quite funny. It's possible he just found the whole thing entertaining. So there is an element of that, and trying to do something really well that is really difficult to do, however good you are, takes an effort. You've got to carry yourself to this level, haven't you? And that fit. Some of the band felt at the time, which they've now said they regret thinking, that Scott Tunis was deliberately playing these terrifying prog bass parts where he was jumping around the beat to put people off because he was so amazing. You can understand that, and he was so abrasive to talk to. It wouldn't have been like, no, I'm doing this because it's good. I'm not. He wouldn't have said that. He would have been like, fuck you. Even if you're Chad Wackerman, that's a nightmare. If you've got this ninja bass player going, and it does sound ridiculous in hindsight. It doesn't mean, The other thing is is it sheep mentality? That's not the best phrase because that's kind of harsh. It's a powerful thing, I've been on message boards. I've been going on message boards for 25 years, and The same thing always happens. To the point where I think, I'm not doing this, was there? I found a new Doctor Who one, and I posted a bit. I saw something else. I don't have enough. It's not this. But yes, he keeps saying this thing. The thing I always want is someone's been radioed and can get a message. That what was happening was about computer games, and this every time there was a new game came out, the guy would post about, oh yeah, I've got the PC version. PC version has, I can do 60 frames a second. It's amazing. It's this resolution. And then it was like, this is so unbearable. He has to stop. Someone has to stop him. I can't stand it anymore. I'll have to leave. I'm traumatized from someone talking about the PC version of a game. And the problem is, because I would point that out, that that would cause extreme friction if you point out that, so. That's something over and over again. I think I know quite about the music on this board. I was playing music once, but I didn't understand you see. It's sort of having something. It's being part of a group. Is a natural thing, isn't it? That we have to feel part of a group, and it's deeply traumatic to not feel part of it. So if one person says something, the other person says, "Oh, yes, actually, do you think I think this? Yes, actually, I'm part of this group too. So I agree. This is awful. Let's kill him."
So do you think Scott Thunis was the one person who was being rounded upon by the group?
That's what we're told. There's no disagreement about that. Whether it was deserved. Most of them have sort of apologised, but mostly they tend to sort of play it down and say it was exaggerated. Because of course Frank cancelled the tour. He could have got Walt Fowler in. Is it Walt Fowler or Tom Fowler, the bass playing one? But decided not to because but from Frank's position, he can't have a band telling him who to get in his band. But it would have cost a lot of money as well. There is a suggestion actually that Frank wasn't well by then, and the other band members have suggested, he tried to use that as an excuse. But I've seen that happen so many times. I can see it. It's a crowd. You're with the crowd. You've got to agree with the crowd. The crowd says it's unbearable. We need to rub his name off of cake. We weren't there, obviously. That's the thing, but neither were you. 1988. If you Google it, Bon Jovi, Poison, Guns N' Roses, and Zappa touring. And that's strange.
It is strange.
What that music sounded like, in the same venues as Bon Jovi with their hair. That's just bizarre. And Mr. Sting came on and played with them, and it's brilliant. It's really good, and it's amazing that it was actually improvised. Murder by Numbers. It was almost Flo and Eddie, so we get a little bit about that. I don't know if this was the time it was revealed why Flo and Eddie didn't play with him, but basically they were making a lot more money being cleaner, shall we say, and to go back to that stuff was difficult. And Happy Together comes out every year in a film. It's in a film every year, so why would they want to do anything else? And it's kind of good. I would have liked to Flo and Eddie tour, but compared to what we got, which is amazing. Stairway to Heaven. We get the Stairway to Heaven story. Because, of course, that's the good versions of Stairway haven't been released. We've got the straight Stairway to Heaven, which is all he could release. But, at one point, they were instead of playing the solo, Frank would sort of step forward with his guitar, and then they'd play the Untouchables theme. But then, it's good with the horns, but it'd be nice to hear the more interesting version. Apparently, you have to get permission to release stuff if you changed it. You can do a cover version, but if you change it, you have to get permission and all that stuff.
Yeah, right. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. And obviously the Beatles covers Medley, and that was all part of this registering to vote and all that stuff. People trying to stop him from registering people to vote. There were some towns where they wouldn't let him do it. They said, we've got plenty of people voting. We don't need any more voters. That's so dodgy.
We're sorted for voting here.
Yeah, none of that here, thank you. And Zappa's it's real libertarianism. He's a real libertarian, not sort of an extreme authoritarian using the word. That's what a real libertarian would do. I do remember a conversation with someone who was arguing that Zappa was a Republican, and he actually wanted to bet money. I remember the phrase. I'm thinking maybe 3 figures, 4 figures. How much you want to bet that he's not a Republican? Which is just baffling. I just quoted some lyrics at him and said, "Okay, so what was that about a bet?" And he just didn't respond. Very strange. Anything you can remember about it that was interesting?
The appendices were pretty good.
They are. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, Broadway the Hard Way wasn't released outside of the US initially because they were political songs. They thought, well, they're not relevant. Official discography. So we've got Broadway the Hard Way, Best Band You Never Heard. That's 2 discs. There's 2 tracks on You Can't Do Set on Stage Anymore Volume 4. It's only Take Me Out to the Ball Game and Filthy Habits though. Then we've got 2 discs from Jazz Noise Here. Several tracks on You Can't Do That on Stage Volume 6. And of course Transfusion is the final Guitar Solos album. That was released in 2006. Here we go. So there were some downloads. Anything, anytime, anywhere for no reason at all. Exclusively to iTunes, so I know that. So yeah, I mean, okay, so the question is, I mean, you need to give the lowdown on this one. I'm the fan.
Right.
So I want it. And I liked reading it.
Book?
And it was interesting. But unless you're, I mean, you like Zappa music, so you would read a book about Zappa.
But my interest is probably not in the touring.
Yeah, is this too specific? Is this for fans?
Yeah, I think it is for fans. Yeah. Although you're right, the schism does add interest, which is general interest. But I mean, I have very specific interests to Zappa. So I've read some early stuff about Zappa early days, because my interest is, how do you go from a normal person interested in starting a band like thousands of people at that time, to someone creating something which is incredibly interesting, complicated, almost willfully obtuse.
Yeah.
How did he get from that person, from a normal person who wants to make music, to that? And I don't think, well, obviously you're not going to find that in there because this is...
Yeah, it's about that tour.
Yeah, it's about that tour. But I don't know if there is a book that covers that.
No, I mean, you've got the biographies.
It's a fantastic,
Yeah, it's like something happened to his brain in 1966. He thought,
that'll do.
Yeah.
I think I'm also... because he sort of... did he reject the freak movement? I'm trying to think back now to the stuff I read.
It depends what you mean by the freak movement, doesn't it? But yeah. I mean,
I put him in the category of Hunter S. Thompson. So Hunter S. Thompson was an author.
Yeah.
And I kind of get the similar sense from Zappa. And I think that's probably a category error in my head, because Hunter S. Thompson was a very political figure.
That's true.
I assume Zappa was a very political figure, but he's not actually... I don't think he is that political. I mean, the only thing that really got his...
I think if he'd survived, that's what we'd be talking about.
Well, he was... I think he was talking about, lyric... when was it they were going to put an age rating on albums or something like that?
Yeah.
And then he became very active then, and he gave evidence to Congress or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But apart from that, he's actually not that... Apart from what's in his lyrics... he's not like an activist or anything like that.
No, he never. Well, he never got a chance to do that. I think he was probably going to. I think he became so involved that it was very likely.
Yeah.
There's some fantastic interviews, and it's all getting towards him passing away. When and there was this thing when he was going to run for president. I don't think that would have got that far. I mean, anything's possible now, of course. Yeah. But I don't think that would have been his intention either, but he would have been very active. But that would have happened in the third phase of Zappa, which we didn't get.
So basically, anyone who's watched In the Court of Wenton Nave, should definitely read this. Yeah,
if you've actually watched a chunk of those videos, then if you're prepared to put up with me waffling on, then definitely read this. Unless you're a full-on zealot of the first 3 albums thing, then it's a waste of time. But
Mm-hmm. I'm more. I mean, it's not just music books. I'm a bit history books. I know history's important and all that, but I find it incredibly boring. This happened, then this happened, then this happened. A list of things that happened.
Yeah. And that's a lot of one on there. And I thought, oh yeah, I really like history books, and I like the facts.
I'm more interested in the ideas around it and stuff like that, which is
Well, when it was, it was a long time till I really got proper. I think what people would call cable TV or satellite TV, that wasn't the free stuff, that had all the channels, And I was so excited about getting the history channels, and they're shit. Yeah. There's no history. There's no documentaries even.
It's just war.
It's like home improvement programs and reality TV of hunting for antiques and things like that. Nothing. But you do get documentaries about the Second World War, which is interesting. I'm all for that. You don't get anything else, and you get ancient aliens of bullshit history.
Yeah. That's it. Well, I mean, I haven't watched History Channel in years, but for me, it was mostly war. It was sort of like
Second World War or aliens and home improvement programs and reality TV crap. Yeah. And then occasionally you'll find a documentary. There's all these different channels, so it's a BBC one. The best ones are on the BBC already. Waste of time. Sucks. Yeah. There is a fantastic. Well, I quite fancy the woman in it, if I'm honest. But it's the history of the humanity, history of humanity, and really, it's the first episode is really interesting about the how we came out of Africa and spread across the world stuff. If I could remember the name of it, that would be a really interesting thing to put in this video. So yeah, this is a history book, isn't it? Mm. It is a history book, yeah, because there's very little analysis, deliberately, because the analysis will be making an interpretation. This is just getting what people said and what happened. So that's the fulcrum, on which the book must be presented.
Judged and presented. So if you like that sort of thing, this is going to be like a 5-star book.
Yeah, and if you don't,
book.
it won't. No. Okay, if you don't really know Zappa, you know a couple of songs, this is probably worthless.
Yeah,
you could go that far, I think. It's not the book to start with, and it's not. It's a fan book. If you like Zappa, and you need to have heard. If you've heard most of the albums that when he was alive, that's probably get you over the line to you would like this. I like, my. I can't remember any words. My version of best band you've never heard in your life doesn't have the bloody thing on it. Thing. What's it called? Should have written this down. Bolero.
Oh, Ravel's Bolero.
Yes.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, my version doesn't have Ravel's Bolero, so I've got another CD, a CDR in that disc. I'm not buying it again. It's the same for one song. So I've got the Beatles medley and etc. Republican retrospective. It's fun. I mean, you say he's not very political, and you're right in that he became very political right at the end of his life.
I think what I was trying to say is I assumed he was more political.
Active,
active political than
well, he's a musician.
He was.
And that's the thing. He's a musician. He actually found those things stopping him from doing what he wanted to do, and he could lay a lot of the blame for where he hadn't been as much of a success on that kind of stuff. So he was drawn into it, and yet of course people would have expected him to do that. Certainly in the 60s, which obviously he rejected the hippie bullshit thing. We're only in it for the money. Was controversial. I mean, now it's not controversial. The Beatles wanted to make lots of money. Of course they did. They wanted to be famous and rich. Yeah, and Paul McCartney will say, "Well, yeah, of course we were. What are you talking about? No, peace and stuff." So people would have expected him to be. But really, you're right. Yeah, he's not. He became it. But yeah, I mean, if you like Zappa and you don't know much about that era, I mean, hunting down the songs they play, and they're great versions. I just scrolled through Best Band, and Zootalaw, Mr. Green Jeans, Florentine Pogan, Zombie Wolf, best versions of Zombie Wolf for '88. They even did Who Needs the Peace Corps, because I think part of that was because of Mike Keneally's voice. He could put on those silly voices. Oh, and Ring of Fire, of course. So they genuinely were going to get. For fuck's sake. What's his name? Who wrote Ring of Fire?
What's his name? Walk the line guy, in it.
Walk the line, burn, burn, burn.
Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash, that's the one. Yes, and he was genuinely going to come play with them, and his wife was ill or something, so they just thought Ring of Fire was very funny. And they played it, going ow, 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 and then they played it again. They played it again. They played it 3 times because it was so funny. Yeah, this is the Frank Zappa version. So it leaves a fiery ring. That's a fiery ring. Fell into the Ring of Fire. Ow, ow, ow. That Ring of Fire. It's hot. I think they only played it once. It was only at one show, I think. I don't think they played it again. Someone can correct me on that. This is the thing with Zappa mythology and facts, is that it is so complicated. There is so much information. I can never keep up with the people who've lived through it, who were actually there, had time to pick up things as it went through time, 25 years. I can never catch up with them. You know, there's people correct me and say, no, it was 67 that they played this. And great, cool. And that's very, very prog, isn't it? Very nerdy and very, and that's why the facts, the list of information is part of the Zappa thing as well, The clues. Eggs. I don't know. 4? It's got to be, I think 4 eggs because it's so specialist.
Yeah.
But it is very good at what it does. And I think it was correct not to provide its own analysis and read between the lines. You have to read between the lines of what happened. Someone said it was Bobby Martin who was the ringleader, but everything in this book implies it was Ed Mann. In fact, before you get this book, Make a Jazz Noise Here. Just get that. It's excellent. So that's what you need.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. That was a terrible review. Sorry.